Hello, me lovelies. Um, at the moment, I'm on my own. I'm waiting for Christine to turn up, so I don't know what's going on. But we're going to be talking about gang stalking and what it entails. And Christine was going to do a talk on it, but waiting for it to turn up. So hopefully she'll turn up soon. So if anyone's got any little questions, just put them in the chat and let me know. There's 5 watching at the moment, I can see, to fill in the time. Just reading. Hi, Gary. I say just waiting for Christine again. So what am I going to talk about? Because I didn't expect this to happen the second week on a run that she'd turn up late. But anyway, gang stalking. Now, what I see about gang stalking, or as I understand it, and I haven't looked into it too much, is when people get into like a community thing, like a group, should you call it, a clan, and start attacking a person and gaslighting them and causing them trouble, which you see a lot of that happening on social media, especially, but it actually happens more on Twitter, I think, because you get really big communities and big clans forming on Twitter that can go into thousands, where on YouTube it's a lower number when they do it. And they do it through usually soccer accounts start attacking people. Now that's as I understand what gang stalking is. And I've had experience of it. Well, I'm experiencing it now, but on a very small scale where I'm being attacked at the moment. And of course, gaslit. They say things about you and produce videos about you where they're very carefully edited. So it comes out making you look in a bad position when the truth is much, much better than that. Hello, Hope Springs. So if anyone wants to start talking about or saying in the comments their experience and or have had experience of gang stalking, please do. Because it's no point me just being here talking about it on my own, because I'm not an expert on it where Christine had looked into it. I was going to give a full speech on it. But if anyone wants to say it, then please do. Because otherwise I haven't got any plan to talk about. So this is interesting, isn't it? So what we'll do, we'll give it. I think this is Christine now. Yeah, she is.
Hello.
Hiya, Christine. You're not a girl. I've been sitting here.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, so it's Christine again to talk about, because I was just saying my view of gang stalking. Oh, do you know what? I love your house decor. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, your decor. No, my understanding of gang stalking is that people get together in like clans and start picking on a person, and they have like, but they're on YouTube soccer accounts and things that they're using to do it. But I just said, to me, the worst one, I think by far, for gang stalking is Twitter. For some reason, where YouTube it can happen, but usually the clans or the groups on Twitter are smaller than what they are on YouTube. And sorry, I've got that wrong. The groups or clans on YouTube are smaller than what they are on Twitter. On Twitter, they can run into thousands very quickly, can't they? And become a huge monster. So what do you want to say about gang stalking? Am I on the right lines there? Have I got it?
Yes, let me adjust my seating here. Pardon me. Okay, so gang stalking it's different than online stalking, but I have taken a lot of notes just to organize my thoughts here because this is really, really important, and I really want to get this out so people understand what it is. So I'll just go through what each kind of stalking is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. So individual stalking, otherwise known as unwanted pursuit, is one person stalking another. And 8% of women and 2% of men are stalked during their lifetime. That's how, that's the statistics on it. There's also stalking by proxy, which is when another person hires other people to stalk, threaten, and harass a person.
Yeah.
It's another type. Now there's cyber stalking and online stalking, which is very prevalent. When someone stalks the internet, email, or other telecommunication technologies to harass somebody. Also gathering information about them and collecting a bunch of information about them. And most of these people that do this, yes, they're probably obsessed with the person, but what they're doing out of retaliation and spite sometimes, or out of just sheer malicious intent, are gathering information to put out on the internet to the community to discredit you, to make you feel alienated and withdrawn so that they can continue to stalk you and harass you, but to control you at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, there's also another one that's very shocking. It's called sextortion.
Oh, yeah.
Sextortion, according to the FBI, sextortion is when someone threatens to distribute your private and sensitive material, and if you don't provide them images of sexual nature and or sexual favors or money, they threaten to distribute your private information and publicly humiliate you, and so forth and so on. And this is a serious crime that should be reported to the FBI through ic3.gov right away. Now, I know you're in England and I'm here in America, but if you are, say, in England and the perpetrator is in America, then you could easily go to ic3.gov and report to the FBI.
And I'll put this, just to point out, Christine, remind me as well to do it, because it will go out of my head, but remind me to put these details in the description after we've done this so that people will know where to go to.
Exactly. And then getting to gang stalking. Gang stalking is perpetrated by multiple individuals which are organized with the clear purpose. Many of them, they will do the gathering of information online to humiliate you and so forth. But gang stalking goes on for a really long time.
Yeah.
And the clear purpose can be to end someone's life. I mean, they're vicious and they're out to destroy you and then to get rid of you, because perhaps they're afraid to be caught, or just that was their main purpose, was to just or create a situation where you're so depressed that you might end your own life. That's how malicious it is.
Oh yeah, people have with we call it, the jargon for it in the UK is revenge porn. When you do that, you put it out there. But we also have a different term in England. When you've got someone else harassing someone on your behalf, that's called harassment by agency in the UK. Serious crime, and people don't understand it. And you have to point out to people, and I did a video ages ago, but sort of did a clean job on me YouTube channel and got rid of it, where it was talking about harassment by agency. And it's a serious crime. And what it does, say that I decide I want to harass you, and I think, right, what I'll do is I'll get someone else to do it on my behalf, so I won't get in trouble if they get caught because I didn't do it. Oh, no, 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 no. If it can be linked back to me, even though I didn't do it, because they were doing it on my behalf, They were an agent. That's why it's called harassment by agents. They were an agent of what I wanted them to do, like an employee, more or less.
Right.
Well, I still get in trouble for it. It's as if I did it. And people don't understand that with the law. I see it happening a lot on social media where someone's getting bullied by someone else on behalf of someone else. And they don't realize that the person who's benefiting from all this is the one that's ultimately going to get in trouble, even though they didn't do it themselves. Oh, yeah, it's the same.
Yes,
So we have the
exactly.
same. I think in the UK, the harassment laws are very weak. I always say that, and I always warn people, say, if you go to the police and they say, oh, we'll put it down as harassment, just say, oh, good God, because it's a vicious law. And you know that's when the police are telling you, sod off, we're not interested, because it's that difficult to get a harassment case through. Whereas if they say malicious communications, if they say, well, we'll put that under malicious communications, you've got a chance. You've got a chance. But harassment, I don't know, is it the harassment laws in America, are they any stronger than what I've just described?
Right, right. Well, on the other, back on the sextortion, which is a form of extortion, any form of law enforcement would be very interested to hear that, hear from that victim. And the FBI takes it very seriously. So that's one thing, that definitely you don't have to fear being dismissed by law enforcement for reporting that, even though they're not touching you. They're, asking for, like I said, they're asking for money in many cases so that they can, gain. And that's their threat, that if you don't provide us with sexual images, we're going to, release your private information. So that is extortion, but it's, yeah.
This we've had it in England where a few people have, well, the UK where a few people and horrendously young teens have killed themselves because of this, and it's just horrendous. It's like, as you say, teenager doesn't know what's going on, and this is the problem with the internet, and the huge problem. You've got vulnerable people on there that don't know they're walking into a trap, and I don't know why people. I don't know whether it's because I've got high functioning autism. I was told it was Asperger's, high functioning Asperger's, but apparently you can't say Asperger's now. It's insulting. I don't know why, but I don't know if that makes me more untrustworthy of people or on my guard with people and not willing to take what they say to me as being fact or truth,
right?
Or whether it's just experience in life of being brought up and working in an industry where you knew someone was behind your back wanting to get your role. And guess what? I was doing the same. Everyone was doing it. You wanted their role. You wanted to outshine them. So everyone was in competition. I don't know if that's what's made me more cynical, but I am amazed by how easily people fall for what is lies and con jobs on YouTube or social media. It's amazing. It's right. And even though you point out, can't you see where they're slipping up here? They don't see it. And it's amazing.
It's just a sad thing about human behavior that many people would rather hear the negative about someone than the positive.
Yeah. It's entertaining, isn't it? Yeah. It's
exactly.
Yeah. That's it.
Terrible.
It's all Real Housewives of New York City and all that.
Right.
That's what it is.
Our society thrives on all of that, and it's sad when it comes into real life, because this is not a reality show. This is life, and it's destroying people's lives here. And the internet was created, as we know, as a place to open a window in your home to the world and have at your fingertips knowledge.
Yeah.
And also for joining families and finding friends from, back in elementary school and things like that. That's the beauty of it. And that's what it should be used for knowledge. But it's so much turned into a weapon for perpetrators to ruin victims' lives. It's terrible.
That's what does happen. I've seen it happening loads of times. I've seen people that I didn't particularly like being driven off social media and having to get off it. Not because they were horrible, bad people, but because the views may not been the same as someone else's. And so that was it. They got on the... I don't know what this is, Christine.
That's all right.
Just give me 1 second.
Life happens.
No, sort off. I'm not answering it. It's one of those 0 numbers. I'm not answering it. So they can get lost. So yeah, it's... You get people getting driven off. And one I saw, and she was a lovely young woman, used to just come on, she'd do happy videos. She'd do like a bit of cooking and all this. My God, she got slated because she'd made one mistake. She sided with someone and said that he was a nice fella and all this. And just because she literally sided with him, everyone turned on it. And it was just like these wolves jumping on it.
Wow.
And the poor woman had to get off. And they was there, all that she wanted to do was to do fun videos. It was tragic, it was. I mean, when it happens to a nice, nasty person, you don't care. But when it happens to someone that's really just out there to enjoy themselves and have fun, it's not nice at all. But what you're saying, what you've laid me so far, is that gang stalking is different. It's not quite that, is it? It's something on a much more wider, serious scale.
Oh yeah, it can be really rather insidious what these perpetrators do, and it usually happens to females. It's lasts longer than an individual stalking, where one person stalks another. Very few, but it can't be ruled out. They could be former partners.
Yeah.
And usually the victims do not know the perpetrator. But again, you can't rule that out also, because it does happen with people are usually gang stalked by strangers. However, people it is possible. It can't be ruled out.
God, Jeff, had it happening to me. Years ago. It happened to me. And when I found out who was actually the originator of it, I nearly died. The last person I would have thought of. Now, I wouldn't mind, thankfully, again, because of the way I am. I won't say it to anyone in private what I'm not willing to have in the public domain. I just won't do it. That's the way I am. And so when people think that they're saying, oh, here we are, Anne said this or Anne said that, and they think they're getting an exclusive, you can guarantee I'll have said it. I wouldn't care whether it's out there or not. But this is it. You get people, and that's where you've got to be very, very careful when people are asking you question after question. I had one. I'll give a perfect example. Someone who I'm having a run in at the moment because he started on me, but of course, I'm the bad one because I dared to defend myself. He's did a few clips of a video that I did, an interview I did, being horrible. Now, going back, he just emailed me, this is over a year ago, out of the blue, about an ex-Sky news reporter called Sonia Polton. Out of the blue, he got in contact with me thinking that I was a trans woman, which I'm not. I don't think I'm a woman. I've never said I'm a woman. Anyway, he got in contact with me and it was all, isn't this terrible what Sonia's saying about trans women and all this? Isn't it terrible? Acting like he was concerned. And straight away I knew, no, he's trying to get me. He's thinking that I'll get riled up and go attacking Sonia Polton on his behalf. So I was wise to him and I thought, I'll try again, mate. Then suddenly this email came through, Christine, and it's beyond belief. I was just like, this person doesn't know me. I don't know them. It was the most impertinent personal questions, claiming he was a criminologist. Found out my backside is a criminologist. He's never been employed as a criminologist, never once. And all these impertinent questions. Now, I knew then, I thought this is some kind of weird person that's got some kind of obsession. Then he showed his true colours. He started coming out with hate speech on the internet against me and all this. But if I'd fell for that first email he sent me and thought, isn't this a nice person who's concerned that this Sonia Polton person is a transphobe and all this. Oh, isn't he concerned? If I'd fallen for that, I would have gone right down into a trap. And that's what the people have got to be wary of. If a stranger comes up to you acting all concerned, take it easy. Go with it slowly. Don't just start telling them things or telling them your thoughts straight away. Go slow with it until you are sure that this person hasn't got an alternative motive.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Now I've done some research on some really, really frightening things about gang stalking. There's a lot of writings about it. And gang stalking can be physical stalking, people following you in groups,
God,
all of that.
Yeah.
No, that's the physical stalking. Getting into with cyber technology, they're cyber criminals getting into your devices and getting information, or even the cameras, because each device has a camera on it. You know that.
Oh, Christine, can I just jump? There was something I watched. There was something on the news. You've just triggered a memory. There's something in America by Apple called, I don't know whether I've got the name right, AirPod or something. It's a tracking system. And it tells you when you're being tracked. I don't know whether we've got them in the UK, but women are complaining. It was just it's on the internet. Apple AirPods, I think it's called. They're getting alerted that they've been getting tracked by these devices. And so they don't know when someone's putting it under the car or somehow getting it on them so they can track where they are. They said it's terrifying, but it's all women it's happening to, are being tracked. Have you heard about that, these AirPods, Apple AirPods? I think that's what they're called.
I haven't heard about that particular device, but I know that's very common. There's a lot of people talking about that, that people are being stalked through their own devices. And, many of these gang stalkers are cyber criminals. And they're using their knowledge for evil, if you will.
Yeah.
And they're very, very intelligent, but definitely they are cyber criminals. So you have to be aware of that too. So gang, that's more of a physical stalking, although they're using the internet or cyber technical devices to stalk you. But because of modern advances, highly technical devices are being used to stalk people, otherwise known as electronic harassment. And there is a doctor, Dr. John Hall, MD, who's written books, very credible. I watched some of his podcasts. It's frightening what's going on, but one of his novels is A New Breed: Satellite Terrorism, where people are using devices. And another one, Guinea Pigs: Technologies of Control. And I came across this document on the internet. It's called Inputs for Psychosocial Dynamics Conducive to Torture and Ill Treatment Report. People need to read this. It's frightening this whole situation regarding these satellite devices that are used to stalk people has gone before the General Assembly at its 75th session in October 2020. So it's gone before the United Nations. It's a global situation, and people all over the world are being victimized by it. I would encourage many people, it's very lengthy, I would read it. I would encourage people to Google Inputs for Psychosocial Dynamics Conducive to Torture and Ill Treatment Report. And it's really happening. And these devices are being used to stalk and harass and even to end people's lives. It's absolutely frightening. And this is happening.
Well, Christine, I've never done this before. See if I can get a banner on. I don't know whether I can.
All you do is, if you Google Inputs for Psychosocial Dynamics Conducive to Torture and Ill Treatment Report, it mentions Dr. John Hall.
Yeah. I'll put in the comments in the
Yes,
description anyway after the show, because I was going to
want to
put it
get this
on a
out to the
banner.
public. Yeah,
Yeah, but I
it's
don't know
already
how to
on the
do it.
internet. So
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
definitely put that in there and get them through,
okay.
because it's like what they call targeted individuals. Is it the same kind of thing?
Targeted individuals. It's
Yeah,
mentioned that in here. So yeah, and I can even send it to you afterwards on talking,
yeah,
so that you will have that, and also the names of the books by Dr. John Hall that would be very interesting, and also just look into his study about all of this, these type of satellite devices and cyber devices that are being used to stalk people. It is very frightening.
Oh, it is scary when you think of it, the way it goes on. Because the technology now, it's like your mobile phones. People go on about no mobile phones. Oh, they're wonderful and all this. They're great. How do we survive without them? And then they'll start complaining about CCTV in the street. Oh, it's an encroachment on our human rights, having being filmed everywhere we go. But I say to
Human
them, do you
rights.
know? But as I say to them, I say, but if you've got a mobile phone, you've got the perfect tracking device there. I said you can be followed, and it's, do you know, before them, all that you do, if someone had to wait before they could contact you, before we had mobile phones, they just had to wait. You couldn't just demand. But now, this is what you see. You see someone, and they'll be like, "Hello," and someone saying to them, "Where are you?" So they explain where they are. Then 5 minutes later, it rings again. Hello, where am I now? Oh, and it's like continually tracking where they are. And I say, so don't complain about CCTV. You can be tracked by your phone all the time by people who keep. I don't know how people put up with it. I wouldn't. I like then. I just won't answer the phone if I'm not in the mood to answer or talk to someone. But
Right.
we're watched all the time now. And the scary thing is, our families and friends can watch us continually. You can't have a break now because of that mobile phone is there, or your internet is there, and they can all wait a minute, just give us 1 second. Here we are. Just getting rid of that person. Sorry, not having you on here, Paula, man, you're a troublemaker. So anyway, that was the mobile phones, as I say, the tracking device, and that's why I don't see why people are complaining about CCTV. But before that, it's like schools. I bet this happens it will happen in America. Say that a kid kicked off in school before mobile phones. All that the school could do was cope as best they could until home time, and the parents would come to collect the child. Then they tell them they did this, da da
Mhm.
da. Now all that they've got to do if the child kicks off is pick up the phone and tell mama or papa to come and collect them. Now,
Mhm.
what message does that also give to the child? If they kick off, mama and papa will come and get them from school. So it's all
Mhm.
gone mad. It's gone totally mad. And I wouldn't like to be a parent now, because of course all children will take tantrums at some time. It's natural, it's normal behaviour.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
now the message is, oh, if you want us to get your mama and papa to take it home, pull a tantrum or act up, and it's gone mad. I don't know. That's my little rant on mobile
No,
phones.
that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Yeah, and people are stalked through their cell phones all the time, like we touched on earlier.
Yeah,
You know, so it's a modern world, and technology is meant for the greater good, but
yeah,
unfortunately, there's perpetrators out there that are victimizing people.
yeah. So,
So go
was
ahead.
there anything else you wanted to go on to discuss?
Basically, I really conveyed what I wanted to convey. I will post to you inputs for psychosocial dynamics conducive to torture and ill treatment report. You just Google that title, and it pulls up a PDF that's also known as military grade.
Yeah,
And it has gone before the General Assembly at the 75th session in October 2020, this whole matter, which is the United Nations. And it's a global matter,
yeah,
and it's real. And our government knows about it globally. because it went before this, the United Nations. And even at the time, President Trump was present via telecast when they came together on this very matter.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a real thing. I really am really sensitive about that. As soon as I hear someone talking about certain things, I'm like, okay, this person has gotten some wrong information. I can tell a conspiracy theory when I hear it. I mean, most people can.
Yeah.
This is not that. It's gone before the United Nations. They know about these devices. So be wary about it, people out there. And
well, it's always the situation, as I say, Christine, until someone goes through it personally themselves. You don't know, do you? You never know. But as I said, what you've just turned around and said, the yardstick of knowing whether this is going on is what you said. If it gets to that height now, America, as before, you've said this before, I used to scoff. Well, not scoff, that's the wrong word. I used to douse when people go on about MK Ultra and say, oh, such nonsense, controlling people's minds and all this. But then evidence was found in America, of all places, where they'd been doing it on children. And then I thought, wait a minute, they've got evidence of this going on, and they used children. And then it went on, and I thought, wait, that's when I started thinking, wait, here's the evidence coming out, and it was very, very unsettling. And then I stopped doubting what people would say. I mean, it's not that you get people coming along and it's trendy to say I was a victim of MK Ultra. They're a nobody, but they're a victim of MK Ultra, or they're a targeted individual. Yet they're on the internet talking about they're a targeted individual. Doesn't make sense to me that, when they do that. But you sort of say to yourself, well, there's something there, because they found the evidence of it, and that's the whole thing. Once they see the evidence of it, and usually you can tell also whether someone's paranoid and delusional. And this is a world where it's very, very easy to get paranoid in the modern world. Easy. But then you can tell when there is something there, because I think it's the shock element. They can't believe it themselves that it's happening. And that's a big indication when they're totally they don't want to believe it themselves. I don't want to believe this, but something strange is happening here. It's very frightening what goes on. Well, we don't know the full extent of what goes on, do we? I suppose there's always been, I mean, we can't get away with it. There's always been control. We're brought up to be controlled. That's what schools are, after all. Schools, what was it Jane Austen said? Jane Austen said in one of her books, she said about little jugs being filled up with water. And she was describing the education system in a genius, Jane Austen was, in England at that time, still now. She's talking about little jugs being filled up with water, meaning filled up with information. And because these two sisters could name the continents of the world, they thought that they were intelligent people. And she was more or less saying in it, no, they're not. That does not equate intelligence, being able to name the continents. What is intelligence? Is being able to empathize with other humans, being able to understand human nature. And that's so true. School is literally a control mechanism, but control basically from the moment we're born. I mean, you do need some control. I've always said that. We do need some control. If humans were allowed to go totally native, shall we say, natural, it would be Lord of the Flies territory, where it would be horrendous. You couldn't survive it. Because have you ever read Lord of the Flies? That's what that is. It's a book about these children, schoolboys, and they're in a plane crash in a deserted place, and there's no adults there, and they just basically turn to wild savages and start killing each other. And that's why they say you do. And it was a book about you do need laws. You do need control to keep people from turning just totally on each other and going wild, going back to nature. But fascinating subject, I think it is anyway, because it's scary as well. But if you personally, what's been your personal experience? Have you ever had this happening to you? So, because I know you're saying you were stalked and
Okay, so yeah, the same person, the same perpetrating defendant. I title it because he's a defendant with a criminal restraining order on him, still perpetrating on the internet. The FBI is investigating. Those investigations take time, and I'm being respectful and patient towards the FBI when I say that. In time, you know, the federal courts will take over. Right now, it's in Superior Court regarding the criminal restraining order that was issued to protect me. Yeah, this person definitely physically stalked me, definitely got into my devices, definitely used cyber technology to stalk me, gain information about me, release it to the community on the internet and also person to person in the community where we live to discredit me. All that is done to, obviously undermine a person, discredit a person, make a person feel so low that they alienate, and that puts that person in a position to, in many cases, and that's their desire, a person to become suicidal. And or the stalking can also lead, because there have been murder threats upon me by this person and his accomplices. So yes, I've experienced it. And I'm living through it right now. But thank God for the Sheriff's Department, their support towards me as a victim, the FBI, and also the justice system. Been supportive. I have a victim's advocate. I've been diligent in reporting and trying to protecting myself. Unfortunately, all the cyber criminal activity is still going on. And as you know, sometimes those things go on for a long time, those investigations, before the perpetrators are brought to justice. But
that's it. It's all about the
in there.
evidence. The evidence has to be gathered. That's it. But it's you see, the UK, when you get it going on here, we're not as savvy in this as what the Americans are. I think what it is because America's so big, and with anything big like that, the variety is so big, and also this. I mean, America's got a long history of organized crime. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have organized crime as well, but in America, it's like to a mafia standard. That's why, Christine, I always laugh when you get people on here called gangsters. You get these podcasters and it says this gangster. No, they were thugs. They were criminal thugs. They weren't gangsters. A gangster is a big, huge businessman. I mean, I won't name. We had one in Liverpool who was legendary, and they've always said if he was a straightforward businessman, he'd be a genius. He'd fly, but for some reason, he went into crime. But they get called. But in America, you have what I call real gangsters and mafiosi. You're talking about multi-millionaire businessmen, and they can get around. So you've got all that going on. A lot of the Americans love all this subject. Well, the English do as well, and the British do, but the Americans really have to enter into our form when you see the films and all that. So it's much, much more sophisticated. And because it's much more sophisticated in America, the way it can happen, I think what that is, that's why the FBI and the law enforcement agencies have to be very sophisticated in that area. In the UK, if anyone was going through it to that extent, and there'll be people out there that have, I've heard a couple of people saying they have, and they suddenly go silent off the internet. And you think, what's happened here? I don't think. See, the thing is, you go into a police station in the UK and you say, oh, I'm being followed or I'm being stalked and all that. The initial reaction will be paranoid. And they'll try to fob you off. And that's what happens. So that's the only concern I have over here. They don't take it seriously enough. And if it is happening, the papers certainly don't report on it. You don't hear about it in the newspapers. So it's a very, very, I mean, we will start getting it. As they say, if it's happening in America, the rest of the world gets it, because America leads the way for the rest of the world, whatever trend is going on in America. But I think that's why the FBI and all that are much, much more sophisticated and capable than what they are in the UK. Much, much more sophisticated. And they just don't mess about it. the American law enforcement as well. You know where you stand. I'm not painting them as the perfect model to follow,
but no, I know.
but what is the, because I've been in America a few times, and the opinion I got of the police was what the police used to be in the UK around before the 1980s, let's no 1990s, let's say, before then. The old English Bobby, you know, clip around the ear, won't mess about, they'll tell you exactly what they think. Then suddenly this trend came in that they had to be careful, and you know, they had to, well, of course they have to be respectful, and you have the problem that you're going to have certain types attracted to a position where they're in authority, and there'll be bullies or racist or whatever. So you'd have to be wary of that. But America's like I say, they don't mess about. They just get in there and they'll say, you know, they won't fool with people. In other words, they won't play with people. And then where in England, the police often, oh yes, I'm concerned about you. Now you see this happening, Christine. I'm concerned. They'd be all concerned. Then when they turned their back and was out of hearing sight, what do things say? Oh, hearing of the person they'd just been talking to, they'd be jeering and laughing at them. And now you think, you know, that's wrong. That's so disgusting to do something like that. Not all did. There's some ones, you know, that many that were good and were genuine in the job. Just looking at any comments here. Oh, wait, this one I saw before. Minx Harlette. I'm trans. I think that means representing LGBT people in the police. Did I represent them, or did I go out there with the message, go there with, and I can only talk about the Merseyside police. I keep on saying this. When people tend to see the police as a homogenous set, in other words, if it's in a police uniform, they're just little clones of each other. They're not. Police forces in each county, each city, can be completely different from each other and have a different approach to things like LGBTQI issues. Also, inside a force, you can get different blocks or different sections that have completely different cultures, completely different. So when I talk about it, I talk about what I experienced in Merseyside, not what I've experienced, what other forces are like. But my warning about the Merseyside police, I don't know what they've changed now, was go there with great caution if you're LGBTQI. If nothing goes wrong for you and you don't find any bigotry and you don't face it, everything will go fine for you. But if you do face bigotry within it, then, and you complain about it or you raise an issue, then you're going to get one hell of a kicking by the system to shut you up, because they will not admit they have issues. And sadly, they do have issues, because I don't care what anyone says, Christine. It's going to attract macho types, and it has to, in a way. I say this, it's a double-edged sword. You've got to have macho men in police forces if you want to fight tough criminals, if you want them to be ready to, you know, take people down that need taken down. You're going to need that type. And to expect every single macho man to be someone, you know, that's going to be all flying a rainbow flag, you know, it's just nonsense to expect that. Some will, some won't. As long as they don't express the bigoted thoughts in the workplace, I used to say fine, because I worked with the sergeant and I knew he had issues, not just with LGBTQI people. He had issues also with black people, which I heard him saying a few things about black people. And I used to say, but he never, ever, ever, until late in the day, he did eventually, but for the vast majority of the time, he never brought that into the workplace and affected me with it. So I was fine with that. I thought, as long as it's not affecting me doing my job. But then everything just went, 2 years in, everything just started exploding and going absolutely wild, and some strange kind of, I don't know, like thing happened with them that they all started getting very vicious. So I've never, when I left the Merseyside police, well, before I left them, I was saying, go there with great caution. And I used to say, find a long-serving LGBTQI person, male person, right? I say, I know what I am, right? So people keep on thinking I'm trying to make out I'm a woman. I'm not. But I used to say in the police, and thank God I did this in a way, I told them I was gay. I used to let them think I was gay. Of course, didn't go in like this. I did on one occasion, which caused an absolute scandal because I went in with full makeup and all that. But I wouldn't tell them I was intersex because I thought, no, I'm going to say I'm gay because I was frightened. I'd had a bad experience in Ireland where I told someone, I thought I could trust, said, actually, I'm intersex. People who don't know what that means, it's the new word for hermaphrodite. I won't go into full details what it is because people start cheering me and all that over. But anyway, I was absolutely humiliated. I've never been back to this part of Ireland since because it got out and I was treated like a freak. And, you know, I'd rather be hated than be treated like a freak of nature. That really hurts.
Yeah.
So anyway, so when I joined the police, Merseyside Police, I kept that quiet. I thought, no, I'm not going. I didn't tell anyone. I kept it quiet until I was 50. Anyway, I said I was gay, and that was bad enough. When it turned bad, that was bad enough. Having them thinking that they used to come in with the snide comments. This was after 2 years they used to do this, and I'd be like, "Oh God!" And one sort of carried on, got brave when they heard one person calling me, then another one would. But I used to say, "How many LGBTQI?" But not L. Leave the L out of it. Are actually long serving in that police force. I'd say the length is usually 2 years, then out the door. I was long serving and I was only there. I can't even remember how long it was. I wasn't there all that long. I think it was 6, 7 years, something like that. And I was out right out when I got a chance, but I was determined to see it through. So I was no representation of the LGBTQI people in the Merseyside Police because I say it was a disaster for me, and thank God I didn't tell them I was intersex because I hate to think what they would have been saying to insult me then. Horrendous things they would have been saying. So I got out of there, and so now, whether they've changed now, you're talking about 10, 11 years ago, they might have changed. All that I know is that when you report problems to them of hate speech or whatever, they're better now at responding to it than they were when I was there. So before anyone, I can tell you this, before anyone goes and joins the police force, you have to remember you're joining what is and it's a, how can I call it? It's a clan as such. It's, you've got to follow orders. You've got to fit in with the system as best you can. You can't be so much as an individual as such because you've got to represent the force itself. So when I remember there's a kick-off about, you know, which was right to be a kick-off because there were concerns about minority groups being pulled by the police for police searches. You had a much, much, much greater chance of being pulled if you weren't a white British person, or you could be a black British person, you'd have much, much more chance of being pulled. And there was a big kick-off, quite right that there was, because it was just, the people were getting pulled just because of their ethnicity. Anyway, when that happened, someone was saying that a campaigner, I won't name him because I don't like him at all, he doesn't like me, a campaigner was going on about, oh, black police officers should refuse to do it, refuse to do it. And I tried to say to him, you idiot. I said, they can't refuse to do it. Oh, I'm saying that they should. I said, if they refuse to do it, they're going to get disciplined. And I said, then they're out the force. I said, because you can't refuse to carry out an order. I said, you either carry out the order or guess what? You pack your bags and leave. That's the rules. It's like, say that they come out with a law that LGBTQI people had to be, I don't know, plaques put around their necks to say what they are, right? If I didn't want to do that when I was with the police, I would have said, no, you can't do that. I said, because you can't refuse to do it. I'd have to leave. I couldn't say, no, I'm not going to do that. Many police officers have to do things that they don't agree with at all. They don't, they find abhorrent the certain laws. But you've got to do it. You've got to do it. So it's a double, it really is a double. So that's for this. Do you think it's got needs for LGBT officers these days? I don't think, I don't know. I say I'm not there, and I can only speak Minx for where I was, and that was the Mayside police. I can't speak for it. And one section, because I was in one section that it turned really, really bad for me, horrendously bad. Another section I went to was much, much better, but by that time, the damage had been done, and I was in war mode. I was like, I am not going to put up with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to suffer this. So that was my. But if it's easier today, some people will have positive. Don't get me wrong, Mink. Some people will have positive. I don't want to put LGBTQI people off. I know some people that had wonderful times, but that's because they were lucky the system didn't turn on them like it did on me. And it wasn't just that. I was speaking out, and they knew I'd discovered things that I shouldn't have discovered. And I was horrified by it and trying to get something done about it. So that made me a target straight away as well. So it was a double-edged thing. They wanted to keep me silent. So whether it's, if you keep your head, oh, wait a minute, there's this bleeding thing. You get, just to show people, right, if you ever see anything like that popping up, do not click on it, whatever you do. Do not click on it, because it takes you somewhere strange. So let's just block that. Never click on it. And that comes up in chats. Don't ever click on that. But you just have to do that. But one thing that got me the other day, and I'll mention this about another YouTuber called True Media. He's done like a hack job trying to make it out that I'm a convicted sex offender and all this. Really, you know, if people want to go to Sean Atwood's site and type in Andrew Guy and watch the full interview, and you'll see where he's lied through his teeth and twisted things around. But what is absolutely fascinating is he used a document to dox me, right? It's a court document where I went. It took me a year to get there, and I put myself really in danger, Christy, in great danger. Excuse me. What it is in Liverpool, this can happen in a lot of cities. There's vulnerable youths, usually boys, and powerful people in the city get them hooked onto drugs and malleable for doing what they want to do with them. And I found out that there were cases being covered up on Merseyside of this happening. And I thought this has got to get out there. But of course, the local press know about this and keep a lid on it and won't talk about it. The local radio stations won't talk about it. The MPs won't talk about it. And there's a reason for that. They won't talk about it. They keep it secret because the people who are going to be exposed are very, very powerful people. And they are, some of them have been in the Echo, the local press. Some of them have been working in the local radio stations. Now, one of them died, solicitor called Rex Macon, died, and he was known. And I knew, and I thought, right, I'm going for it now. So I said, under Freedom of Information Act, I want the details of what the Merseyside police knew about him. I know what they know about him. I know what they know about other people. But I thought, hey, he's dead. I can get it now, because there'll be no clause there. When someone's dead, how can they be protected by freedom of information if they're dead? Well, you wouldn't believe it. They clammed up straight away, clammed up. No, it's not in the public's interest. So I said, well, why is it not in the public's interest? I said, surely the public would want to know. Would you want to know, Christine, if your local police force was covering up abusers like that? You would want to know, but apparently they didn't want to know that. And it might affect any investigation that was coming up. I said, the whole point is you've blocked an investigation. And it's just nonsense. I said, you blocked an investigation. And the most sickening reason they came up, the Merseyside police, for not releasing that data was that it could affect the business. Erex making solicitors is still going in this city. It could affect their business. Wait a minute, you've got someone that was abusing young boys with the knowledge of the chiefs of the force. And he actually worked for the Liverpool Echo as well. And they knew what he was getting up to. I said, he's been protected. I said, others are being protected. And I said, you're telling me, I said, that you're going to be, doing an investigation about it. You're keeping it quiet. Oh, that they'll lose money over it. I said, salt them. I said, if they do lose money, I said, that group knew what he was getting up to. So anyway, I wouldn't let it go. And I had to go to the information officer. And what's shocking is these are all females that are blocking this. This nonsense that somehow if you put women in positions, children will be safer. Forget it. No, it was the majority of them were women that were doing this, blocking me getting any forward. So I went to the information officer. The information officer agreed totally with the police. No, it's not in the public interest. We won't release that information. I had to go to court, and this is where this document comes into it. I had to go to court to try to get them release it, because if I got that information released, that would allow me then to turn around and say, there we are, there's cover-ups go there, go right to the Home Office and say, right, get right on niche, run every person of noteworthiness in the city, powerful person, MP, whatever, through niche, and you'll find out whether they're being covered up or not and protected from prosecution. But the court turned around and said, oh no. And at one point, the judge, oh God, she got on my nerves. She came in the room, Christine. This is how seriously they were taking it. I was waiting there for ages. And they said, oh, they haven't arrived yet. And I said, they think I wasn't going to turn up. They were hoping I wasn't going to turn up to this. So I thought, no, I'm staying here. So they came after me waiting an hour. 3 of them it was, and this female judge. And at first she starts talking, she said, oh, the Thames Valley Police and all this. And so I said, what are you talking about? Well, I didn't say it like that, because you have to blow smoke up their ass to keep on the right side and to get what you want. So I said, no, I said, Thames Valley Police. I said, no. I said, this is Merseyside. Oh, I've got the wrong one. Right. So it was like, she hadn't read the paperwork or anything. Well, she had read it, but she didn't even know what force it was. She'd read it that well. And at one point I said, everyone really in this city should be looked at, because said it's a huge problem. Anyone that's working in a public position or working in childcare, high up in childcare, the directors and all this of child services, welfare services and all that, social services. And she said, that's a bit extreme, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to say, we're talking about young boys being hooked onto drugs. And here, I wanted to say that to her. And I thought, she knows. She knows it's going on. They all know it's going on. And they blocked it. But this person, that's this True Media, is using that to attack me with now. Where I can turn around and say, I put everything on the line. I put my job on the line. I put my welfare on the line. I put everything on the line to try and expose a horrendous abuse of youths, vulnerable youths. You're talking about latchkey kids, what we call them, kids who don't have any support as such, coming from broken homes or whatever. And what's the future of those poor kids? If they go to the police and report it, the police are covering it up. They're not going to get any joy from the police. Their lives, another person who I don't like from Merseyside, I don't like him at all, Darren G, he's mentioned this. And he said it, and that's where I agree with Darren G. He said this is going on. He's seen it going on. All youths that are in a bad position have seen it going on. But yet, this person goes and puts that up to try and, well, what he was doing, he was gaslighting me. That's what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unbelievable, isn't it, Christine? I don't get it. That's my little bit of a rant over it anyway. But we'll come to the hour now. So is there anything else you want to add, Christine?
Just a little bit, since you talked about law enforcement. I think when it comes to gang stalking, you have to be particular about how you're reporting and who you're reporting to, depending on the crime that's being committed against you. And one of the things is, if it's physical, tangible evidence that you can provide, you would definitely go to local law enforcement. I walked into the sheriff's department very calm and respectful, with little information, with little evidence at the time when my victimization became apparent to me. And I had a positive report with them. In other words, when I reported, it was a positive experience with the sheriff's department. And that's difficult because you're walking in there with little information about the perpetrator at the time when I first came to understand what was going on. And I was not dismissed, which I'm thankful for that, because easily they can say, Christine, I think that you're paranoid, or
Exactly, yeah.
And I didn't have that experience. I think it was the way I presented myself, very calmly. You have to be very calm with law enforcement when you talk to them. You can't act, out of control, because they get frustrated because they're trying to gather information from you, the facts as they stand. So you have to let them talk. You have to let them ask you questions. So there's a way that you carry yourself when you're making a law enforcement report. And so there's things that they can investigate, and they need physical, tangible evidence. Local law enforcement does. Now, when it comes to cyber criminal activity, you're going to have to go to I'll say upper echelon of law enforcement, which would be like the FBI, even Interpol. They investigate international crime. And so when it's things like this, inputs for psychosocial dynamics conducive to torture and ill treatment report document, that's a global matter. So you're going to have to realize that, like you said, the FBI and their technology and their knowledge about, cyber technology, cyber devices, the internet, cybercrime, you're going to go to ic3.gov and report, or to the equivalent of that investigative agency in England, per se. So that's just important to know. You need to know where to report, and how to conduct yourself to get a positive outcome. And then obviously, and I'll just say this, if you know the person, at least try to get a restraining order. Try to protect yourself that way, because if something's in place, that in my case, that criminal restraining order forbids him to be on the internet, stalking me physically and on the internet, publicly humiliating me physically and on the internet, criminally invading my privacy. All of those things are entailed on that original restraining order that I presented to the family law court originally. And because he wasn't actually pointing a gun at me, for example, just saying that to explain and be emphatic about it, the family law judge held up my restraining order request and told the defendant, I'm not going to issue a protective order through a domestic violence protective order at this time, but you will probably face criminal charges for what you have done to Christine Clark. And he had a hidden camera in the bedroom, and I told you about that, filming me for a year and a half without my knowledge, in my nudity, private moments, feminine moments, bending over my lingerie drawer, nude, just things that you don't want anyone to see, and without my knowledge, and placed in a place that anyone would expect reasonable privacy, which is in your bedroom, your bathroom, and that's the law. So that's criminal invasion of privacy. And he uploaded all my nudity onto the internet. He actually created a website of his own, which is direct violation of the restraining order, to publicly humiliate me in my nudity and private moments, to all with malicious intent to ruin my life. So so that family law judge said, you probably face criminal charges for this, because I had taken that, I found the camera, took out the chip, made copies of it, and they were copies of pictures of me and my nudity. But I had to get protection. So I put those in that restraining order. The judge says you'll probably face criminal charges for this. So that judge forwarded all of that, though he didn't issue a domestic violence restraining order, sent it to the district attorney's office, and the district attorney's office issued a criminal restraining order to protect me. But, like I said, it's still going on. He's still cyberbullying and stalking and threatening my life. He has accomplices, and it's all been reported diligently to the FBI. And I'm just hoping that, they'll, however long their investigation takes, I'm just hanging in there, but I know they're there and I know they're investigating. And at one day he'll face justice in the federal court. That's apparently
it. And just if anyone's going through this out there that's suffering this, just let me tell you, make sure you do garner evidence. You get that evidence, because it makes the police, and you said something very, very important, Christine, which I can't emphasize enough. When you're dealing with the police, be as calm as you can. Now, it's not always easy, because it's you're emotionally wrecked, and the police understand that if you've been through an emotional time, you'll be emotionally wrecked. But the worst thing you can do, and I used to get this when I'd be taking statements off people day in, day out, you get someone coming in to report a crime, you need to get it sorted out as quick as possible, and you get them in the interview room, get ready to start writing. And you say, right, and suddenly they'd start with, because I'm putting it in a funny way here, they'd start with, well, I was conceived on such and such a date. And they'd go right back, and you'd say, no, stick to what's happened. And they'd stick to so you'd get them there, and then they'd go off, but this person did this to this person did, don't need to know that. That's not, what have they done to you? And what would take an hour would turn into a laborious 3 hour, because they'd be understandably all nervous, het up. They're wanting to convince you. They'd be wanting to convince me, right, what they were saying was true. They didn't have to convince me. It was the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, they had to convince. But I'd be like, getting them in, be calm as you can, be as calm as you can, understand. Only tell the police, if you want it sorted as quick as you can, what is relevant to what's happening to you, not what they've done to someone else. That doesn't come into the equation. It's pointless. The quicker you can get it in a statement, the shorter that statement, well, not shorter, but the more concise that statement is. Yeah, the CPS will pick it up, because telling now the CPS are all solicitors. That's the Crown Prosecution Service, I have to say over here, not Child Protection. The CPS will pick it up. And these are solicitors, and you know what solicitors are like? They can be, it's just how much money can they get at the end of the day with the vast majority of them. And they'll just read through and they think, can I get a success with this? And they don't want to pick up, and that's going to be a failure because it looks bad on them. So if they see a big war and peace and it's all over the place and it doesn't make sense, they'll just go, not in the public interest. But if they see something where they can see the laws that are being breached, and that's the thing, the laws that are being breached, then they say, oh, we've got a chance with this. We've got a chance. So people try to keep calm. And also it can be a waiting game, as you'll find now, Christine. Sometimes it can take, depending on how involved it is, it can take a couple of years or more. Sometimes it can take a long time. I've known some to take 3 years, and that sounds horrendous. But all the time, you're going to get there at the end. You're going to get there at the end, and that's the
justice prevails. Justice prevails.
But you have to be. But I know people want to. Oh wait, here's a nice one. Here we go. Ming says, "Bless you, Christine. What a psycho he was." To do well, it's scary.
Supporting me and understanding, yes.
It is. It's bloody scary what goes on, and it's more invasive as well. I mean, it's bad when it happens to a man. It's horrific when it's happened to a man. But when it happens to a woman, there's always a sexual element there.
Yeah.
When it's a woman, there's always degrade her sexually. And that's it. That's what's horrific about it. Just strips someone of the whole humanity in it.
Yes.
But anyway, Christine, it's been lovely talking about this. We'll come
Thank
on and have
you.
another talk about something else. And
Absolutely.
we're going to have a guided tour of your pictures next time. And because I love your deco, I do think.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
your little
Thank
mask as well, your Venetian mask there.
Oh yeah. And
Oh,
right here at the top is a gorgeous picture, I have to say, and it was my representation in a beautiful way about how Black Lives Matter. And she's a gorgeous Black woman, looks like a an African queen, and she's very
yeah.
pensive and beautiful. And when I saw that, I said, I have to have it, and it just was my beautiful representation of Black Lives Matter in my home
Oh,
for
beautiful.
to teach my child. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's very, and your wall. Oh, I love wall sconces. Oh, you see, you've got my style. I love that. All wall sconces on the wall.
oh,
But
right, right.
oh yeah, love anything like that. Oh, I have my candles. I love my candles of an evening, just
I
sitting there,
love them too.
like that, feeling like I'm. Oh, oh, lovely. But anyway, Christine, that's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for that,
Thank
and
you
thank
so
you for
much.
people listening in. Christine now will send me by Facebook, won't you, the links you want me to put on and to that book, that publication online, and we'll
Yes,
get that sorted out. So thank you,
absolutely.
Christine, for that.
Thank you
Take
so much, love. I will talk to you soon, and inbox me
care.
about anything, and we'll talk soon. Thank
Certainly
you.
will do. Take care now. Bye bye.
Bye bye.